Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. For some of us Canadians, we had a long weekend because it was Canadian Thanksgiving. And I hope you all had a really great Thanksgiving. I hope you all had some family time and a chance to relax as well. I certainly did. So, very, very excited about that. I'm testing out a new camera. We've got a lot going on today. We have an amazing guest today. Mr. Supply Chain is with us, Daniel Stanton, and so super, super excited to be here with you this morning. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, as well as Blended podcast. If you guys haven't gone to check out the newest conversation in diversity and inclusion, go and check out the Blended podcast. We have had some amazing, amazing, amazing conversations. So, what is happening here at Let's Talk Supply Chain? Well, let's get started with our episode this week. So, this week's episode is with QuickBase. I talked to Peter all about their no code, low code strategy, which I thought was pretty amazing when it comes to supply chain, because obviously, we're getting more into tech as supply chainers, but we don't know everything. And sometimes we've got tech people on our team and sometimes we don't. And I think QuickBase could be a really, really good solution to that. So go and check them out. We've got that over on our letstalksupplychain.com under podcasts. We also have a category filter. So if you guys have a supply chain challenge and you're looking for a solution, we've most likely had them on our show. So you want to use that category filter and see what companies can really help you in the solution to that challenge. But go and check it out. We've got that also on Spotify and Apple. What else is happening? Oh, we've got some upcoming events. So we've got Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson. That's 10 a.m. Eastern on the first Friday of every single month. We've got Topple coming up this month. That's every third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and they are talking about sustainability and blockchain. You're not going to want to miss that. And you can actually head over to letstalksupplychain.com. We've got a registration page for both Log Tech Live and Purpose Planet Profit with Topple. You can register to get reminders so that you can get an idea of when we're going to be going live with those as well. We've got Coming in Hot with Abby Baird. She goes live every fourth Thursday, and she's talking about what it's like to be in supply chain, to have a career in supply chain, to come out of school and have a career in supply chain. So you're going to want to check that one out as well. What else have we got? We've got E2 Open. I've got a webinar coming up with E2 Open, and that is Managing Disruptions, Let the Data Speak. This is going to be a really, really good one. So check that out November 10th at 11 a.m. And then, of course, on November 18th, I am going to be moderating a panel at the Blue Sky event with Procurement Foundry. So head over to procurementfoundry.com, look under their events, and definitely register. They have one of the best virtual conferences that I have been a part of. So go and check that out. And of course, we've got Manifest coming up on January 25th and 27th to the 27th. We've also got another webinar coming up about the future of work with Nucleus. We're going to be posting about that very, very, very soon. We're going to be able to give you a registration link as well. The other thing that I wanted to let you guys know about is I am part of the DEI Honors Initiative with the Journal of Commerce, and they are calling for nominations. So this is the Salute to Diversity Honor, and we're going to be recognizing transport and logistics organizations driving forward diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so make sure that you head over either to the Journal of Commerce, or you can take a look at our LinkedIn page to get the registration link for nominations and nominate that organization today. We really want to honor those who are doing work in the industry. What else? We've got some free gifts happening. So if you head over to the Let's Talk Supply Chain Instagram and DM us with Talk one, you can get a free gift, or we also send out a Let's Talk Supply Chain mug to anybody who is engaging with us the most during the month. And we announce that winner at the end of the month. So cannot wait to see who's going to win that this month, and can't wait to give you that free gift over on Instagram. Now, without further ado, because we've got a lot to talk about today, I am going to bring up Daniel Stanton. Good morning, Mr. Supply Chain. How are you doing?
Good morning, Sarah. I'm doing great. You are like the busiest lady in supply chain. Oh my goodness, you've got so much going on.
Well, I like to keep busy. And I think that, supply chain is ever growing. There's so many amazing things happening. And how else are we going to keep on top of it?
That's
So
right.
I just love it. I mean, most people are like, you ooze passion for supply chain. And I'm like, yeah, because I've lived it and I love it.
Right. You're a rolling stone. You just never stop to gather moss. But you're right. I mean, it's a pretty exciting time for supply chains all around the world. And there's, for better or worse, there's always something new to talk about.
I know, right? For better or worse, that's so great. So why don't you introduce yourself? I mean, I don't know anybody on this planet that doesn't know who you are, but for those that don't, let's do an introduction.
I suspect there are one or two left. So my name is Daniel Stanton, but folks call me Mr. Supply Chain. I'm the author of Supply Chain Management for Dummies, and an author of a whole bunch of courses about supply chain management and project management that are up on LinkedIn Learning. Used to be known as lynda.com.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about that in just a second, because we both now have LinkedIn Learning courses, which is so
Indeed.
crazy.
Welcome to the club.
Well,
you've always been one of the cool kids, but now you've got the gold star.
Well, I just want to let everybody know how grateful I am for you. We just did Thanksgiving. We were talking about things that we're thankful for. I'm grateful for you because when you learned that I was coming out with a course, you wrapped your arms around me and you were like, Sarah, I've got you. Let's do this however I can help. And so I definitely appreciate you, Daniel.
It's awesome. And likewise, the timing's a little bit off, but U.S. Thanksgiving is a little over a month away. But for me, that's a really special holiday for exactly that reason, right? Is you take a step back and you think about all the people and all the things that you're thankful for. And likewise, and I've got to say, Sarah, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful that you created such an amazing course. You did a really, really good job on it. And so, for folks that are figuring out where to get started with supply chain sustainability, I think it's just perfect. You nailed it. One thing I've got to mention, though, that was sort of the cherry on the top of the course is that, like, within the first 30 seconds, there is this really climactic scene where somebody's hand with a scanner is scanning a barcode. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that is my hand. That was
no idea.
That was B-roll that we shot for one of my courses in the distribution center for the school district in Patterson, California, at 6:00 in the morning. We showed up in Patterson, and they were so kind and so gracious. They let us sort of follow them around and get in the way as they were trying to get stuff out to all the schools in the district. And then when we'd gotten the pictures of people actually working and they had to go do stuff, then they were like, okay, Daniel, now you get to go do all the other stuff that we need pictures of, which included scanning labels on a shelf.
So you made it into my course without me even knowing. I mean, that's amazing. Amazing. So if anybody wants to take the fundamentals of sustainable supply chains, and I appreciate everything that you said about that, Daniel, go to LinkedIn Learning, look it up. It's I've been told that it's a great course. I mean, I could be a little bit biased. And then we want to talk about Daniel's course. So Daniel has a slew of courses ranging from project management into supply chain, and even I think hiring and recruiting a little bit too, right?
Yeah, the course that you've got up, the Implementing Supply Chain Management, is really designed to give sort of that broader view of what we mean when we say supply chain to folks that may be working or have experience in a particular function, right? Because the difference between supply chain and logistics or operations or procurement is you're really trying to understand the interconnections there. And so the implementing supply chain management course sort of looks at all of those functions and how you integrate them across a business and with the other things in a business. But you're right. I also have a course, a couple of careers focused courses up there. So one of the courses is sort of more generally, what are the different kind of career paths you can take in supply chain? And then there's another course that's focused on certifications and credentials. And what I find very often is hiring managers, recruiters who don't have a lot of experience in supply chain will just they don't know what to look for. And they don't know what the different certifications and certifying organizations stand for. Yeah. So I find that certification tips and tricks course actually is really handy for recruiters as a way of saying, oh, when I'm putting together a job posting, when I'm reviewing candidates, here's sort of the decoder ring. And my favorite is like CSCMP, right? Because you see that on a resume, and that could be the U.S. Supply Chain Organization.
Or the Canadian one.
Or the Canadian certification, right? And so if you don't know, there's absolutely no way to tell what it means.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love your courses. And so I would highly recommend you go to LinkedIn Learning, you type in Daniel Stanton, and all of the courses will come up for you. And then you can pick and choose which ones you want to go through. But we did just highlight that implementing supply chains as well, which is awesome. I want to say good morning because I've got a few people over on my personal LinkedIn right now. We've got Angela, Seaham, Bob, Rhonda. Good morning to all of you amazing folks. And thank you so much for everybody on Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn, personal LinkedIn for joining us today. All right. So
and I think Sam was your listener of the week last month, right? Didn't she get the coffee mug?
Yes, she did. That's
awesome.
Right. She was definitely our follower of the month. And she got our Let's Talk Supply Chain mug, which I'm telling you is a hot commodity right now. I mean,
I'm just because they're all stuck on a container in Vancouver or something. But so hi everybody.
Imtiaz, Peter, Rhonda, all sorts of people got some mugs happening, and I cannot wait to give out another one at the end of the month. Not gonna lie. Nice. Anyway, So before we get into our supply chain topics, we are going to talk about my thoughts and coffee post from Sunday. Every Sunday, I do post about something to do with leadership and to get people thinking about different things other than just supply chain. I mean, I talk about supply chain a lot. So this Sunday was actually World Mental Health Day. And as you all know, I am a big proponent of mental health. You know, we started the buddy checks at the beginning of the pandemic just to check on everybody. Supply chainers are going through a lot right now. And so wanted to recognize World Mental Health Day and just say, you know what, it's okay to take a moment. I've struggled a bit over the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure a lot of us have been on sort of that wave, especially through the pandemic. Daniel, what is your take on mental health, especially when it comes to supply chain? You know, as a man in the industry, tell us what you think and what we should be doing.
First of all, Sarah, I thank you for highlighting it because it's not a joke. It's a serious thing. You know, I know of situations where this has been taken to extremes when you're in the middle of a crisis, and as a professional, you feel a huge responsibility, and very often, you know, when you're working long days and you have a lot of pressure, that causes distance with the people that you're connected to in your personal life, and it becomes a downward spiral. And there are extreme cases, and I've not been involved in it, but I know people who have, where folks actually take their lives because of the stress of dealing with these sort of crises. So we need to be aware of it for ourselves, and we need to be aware of it for the people around us. Actually, in one of my courses, the leading projects course, towards the end of the course, there's a video where I say, you know, projects don't always go well. Sometimes things fall apart. And as a project leader, part of your job is to be ready to deal with it and to recover. And step one is taking care of the people, making sure that everybody is safe physically and mentally, and knows that we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna get through it together. And if you're not ready at this moment, if there's something else that you need to do to take care of yourself or your family, do that first, and we'll figure out the other pieces.
Yeah, I just got goosebumps because one of the things that I talked about a lot during the pandemic is a lot of the leaders, really taking care of their people, but not necessarily getting it back or really taking care of themselves. So a lot of times throughout the pandemic, I was also, calling leaders to just say, "How are you doing? Like, what are you doing for yourself? How can we help and support you?" And so I think we're all in this together, and it's really about being empathetic on both sides. So definitely appreciate that. I hope you guys all had a good World Mental Health Day on Sunday, and I hope that we can keep this conversation going because every single day should be Mental Health Day, and that we check on ourselves, we check on each other, we do just a little bit more to make sure that we're all just doing okay. All right, let's get into the supply chain topics. What are we talking about today? So the first one is from FreightWaves, and we're talking about Containergeddon, which honestly, I only heard about this last week when I was on Cyberly with Blythe. And but the container ships are just piling up and piling up in all sorts of different locations. And Daniel, tell us what's going on.
Well, and this is like already the old stale version of it, because this was where we were 3 days ago, right? The world has changed so much. So we have this thing that supply chain folks talk about all the time called the bullwhip effect, right? And we know what it is, and very often, the way that we drive it home and really help people understand it is by playing the beer game. This board game that was created at MIT 50, 60 years ago.
I've never played it. I've heard about it, but
we need to fix it. But what happens with the game is you have a really simple supply chain with only 4 steps in it, and you think that it's so easy, right? That you're running one of those stages. All you have to do is take orders from customers, place orders with suppliers. That's it. How hard could that be? And everybody sits down at the table going, "Oh, I got this." And it blows up. It goes out of control. Within not that many rounds, you realize you're out of stock and your suppliers got inventory coming out of their ears and your customers are yelling at you. And you can actually see the inventory do, one of these sine waves. And generally what happens is it amplifies upstream. What triggers it? Any kind of a disruption, right? And when you play the game, it's a change in the order quantity at the end of the supply chain. Well, what's happened to us, we had some volatility, some of these disturbances starting probably 2-3 years ago. Trade war with China, Brexit. And, what did companies do to prepare for that? They started increasing their orders. They started moving things around. And so, in the process, the supply chain was kind of evolving and adapting, but it put some strain where you had some extra capacity. You may have peaked out. Then COVID hits, right? And we shut everything down. And so you've got stuff, in some places, inventory emptying out, in other places, inventory piling up. We start opening things back up. It tries to regain balance, but now you've got this bullwhip moving through the system. And then we've got the Suez Canal. We've got a blizzard in Texas that shut down manufacturing. Yep. And so what happens is these waves hit different places at different times, and it feels like everything is broken. Mm-hmm. The reality is it'll fix itself. We just need to settle down a little bit. And the truth is, I think, for the next couple of months, we're going to find as consumers, the retailers that we buy from are going to find not everything we want is going to be available all the time.
Absolutely.
And so But it's not the end of the world, right? As long as we stay focused, we'll be able to substitute, or we'll be able to wait. Or some of the things is like, do you really need a new uh, uh, game station or cell phone, right? And does it have to be on that particular day, or can you wait a little bit until the
Well, I'm
world
gonna
is
go
back to normal?
back to that because we are gonna be talking about holiday shopping in the next couple of articles. But a couple of things just to hone in on this particular article. If you're gonna go and check out this article, one thing they say is that steamship lines are playing the market, which I thought was kind of crazy because it sounds like they're playing the stock market, but with vessels and people's products, which is crazy. It also says that ships are getting smaller, which I kind of went, because I hear that ships are just getting bigger. And then the other question that I have around this one is, what will the inflation in oil mean for transportation of goods when a container is already at $31,000 and now we've got the oil prices going up? And we all know what that means because we're going to get all sorts of fuel surcharges and. So it just feels like it's a never ending supply chain challenge. And I feel for supply chainers right now because they're like sitting there probably rolling their eyes at me because they're like, what next? And I also feel like we might lose some really, really good talent if this keeps going on because people just don't want to really have to deal with it. But besides that, the next article that we're going to be talking about is Costco. So Costco is once again enacting purchase limits on essentials. So this happened back in May 2020. They're now bringing it back again, even though they have just leased their three of their own vessels, and they've leased thousands and thousands of containers. And what they're saying is that even with an inflation of 3.5 to 4.5% on all their products, they're still seeing a 17.5% increase in revenue. So I'm surprised that they're enacting purchase limits, I guess, from a revenue perspective, but I guess I'm not because I don't want to have empty shelves. What are we seeing here, Daniel?
I think that's exactly right. The trade off for a retailer, and it's Costco in this case that made the news, is if you know that supply is not able to keep up with big spikes in demand, right? Then you've got to balance letting somebody buy as much as they want and then disappointing a bunch of other customers that show up after them,
Mm-hmm.
or limiting how much each person can buy and being able to keep everybody satisfied, everybody's demand satisfied. And I think, just strategically, Costco is prioritizing customer service for the masses, right? For the majority of their members, over certainly revenue, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not selling as much as they possibly could by letting somebody come in and take it all. And they're also trying to avoid headlines and panic caused by stockouts, right? So on the one hand, when you put purchase limits in, that makes a news story, but it's nowhere near as inflammatory an image as the photograph of the empty shelves, right?
Right.
And the problem with the empty shelves is that creates this panic that
Mm-hmm.
makes the problem worse. It amplifies the bullwhip, right? I can't get it, so as soon as it's available, now I'm going to buy more. And one of the interesting things that has been really highlighted through the pandemic is we typically talk about supply and demand, right? Supply
Mm-hmm.
is everything inbound, demand is what you're buying and presumably what you're using. But the truth is, there's a difference between demand, what you buy, and consumption, what you actually use. And what we've seen is demand will go up in a panic even though consumption is flat.
Right.
And so what Costco is really trying to do is keep demand aligned with consumption rather than, letting it be a trigger for the bullwhip.
It's so true. And I want to highlight in this article and the next article, Daniel was actually quoted. So for this one, while it goes against every instinct in a retailer's body to turn away sales from a supply chain perspective, it makes perfect sense to set purchase limits, which is basically what you just said. But some of the other shortages that they were talking about as well is really the trucker shortage. So they're saying that there is product within their suppliers, but they're having a tough time getting it to the actual stores and putting them on shelves because of the drivers and the truck shortages as well, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's been a problem for pretty much as long as I can remember, right?
Yeah.
I can I distinctly remember, and this is a long time ago, showing up at I think it was a CSCMP conference, and I was talking with one of the senior executives from a big trucking company, and I said, "Hey, I've heard last time we talked, you guys had stuff going on with drivers. I haven't heard about it for a while. Is it getting better?" And he said, "Oh, it's gotten much better. Our turnover rate is now under 100%." And like in any other industry, you would be like, how can you do that? So I think there's a combination of factors that, certainly are constrained trucking capacity, right? One, we've got this constant pressure on rates, right? Everybody's bidding for the lowest rate. And so, as in any other industry, are truck drivers getting paid as much as they would like? Maybe as much as they deserve? Probably not. Mm-hmm. So, that's at the end of the day, I think the economics are going to kind of fix that. There have been a lot of things that have happened that make it harder to be a trucker, right? So, we implemented electronic logging device mandates, right? And so I think that's been a barrier, an obstacle to some players, right? New technology requirements. There have been, we had a tough couple of years. If you remember 2019, I mean, it was so bad for the trucking industry. It was like every week FreightWaves was announcing a new bankruptcy, right? It was who's it going to be this week? So, we've got this years-long issue of making it harder and harder to be in the industry. And now all of a sudden we've got this surge in demand.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the constraints.
Absolutely. All right. So we've already had the 5-minute warning. We are now down to 4 minutes. And so our last article, because Peter keeps me on track, just saying. This last article is talking about holiday shopping. And I want to turn over to my personal LinkedIn for a second, because DC was like, she was when you said game station, she was thinking Nintendo Switch because my husband swears he needs one.
Yeah.
Well, I posted.
He'll survive. He'll survive, DC.
I posted about this last week, and I just said, because somebody told me that they were quoted $31,000 for a 40-foot from Hong Kong to Canada. And my heart breaks, I think, a little bit more for the kids, because I really feel like they've been through so much. I mean, we all have been through so much, but the kids have really been through so much. And to have a little bit of normalcy at Christmas would have been nice, but apparently we are not going to have it. But what I'm going to say for this particular article is I want to ask you, how do SMEs get ahead? Like, we know how Costco and the enterprise companies get ahead. How do the SMEs get ahead? And one other thing that they pointed out in this article was that you might have to trade margin for customer satisfaction, because the lifetime of a customer exceeds the value of an immediate sale. So something to really mull over as you go through your day today, because a customer experience to keep that customer might be way more important than that immediate sale. But Daniel, how do SMEs get ahead of all of this? What can we do?
So it's a challenging situation, right? So the big companies can charter their own ships. A small company doesn't have that option. I guess, I would say a couple of things. First of all, I while we normally think about figure out what people will buy and then get that, right? Yeah. I think in this environment, it's really got to be figure out what you can get and then promote that, right? Let people know that you have that and make it easy for them to get it and make it attractive, right? Yeah. And then the second thing, exactly tacking onto what you were saying, is, in this environment, as frustrating as it is to not be able to give people exactly what they want, exactly when they want it, it is an opportunity to show empathy and creativity and to build a relationship. And I think for SMEs, that's really the competitive edge, right?
Yeah.
Is how do you get closer to the customer, figure out what they really need, find something that you can give them, something that you can do for them, and pivot to that. And
Equivalent.
if you can do that and do it well, you're actually capturing loyalty. I'll give one example. I go through a pair of they're running shoes, but I'm not really a runner. So I go through a pair about every 6 months. I've had bad luck buying them online. They don't last. They're not good quality. I've got a local running shop that I used to go to in person, but at the start of COVID, everybody shut down. I didn't want to go to stores in person. But now I have this relationship with them where every 6 months I call, I say, it's me. What do you have in stock that, fits my feet? Because they literally know my feet. They have it in their CRM. They tell me what they've got available. We do the whole transaction over the phone, and the manager drops it on my front doorstep on her way home.
Yeah.
Do you think I will? Right? And so, what could have been really the end of my relationship with that store, if I had to continue going and buying in person, has instead become a story that I tell on, global podcasts.
Yeah.
It would take a lot for them to mess that up at this point. I love those guys.
What is the name of the store?
Run for Your Life.
All right. I love it. I love it. Well, that's the tail end of our discussion today. Daniel, you and I can talk for hours. We've said this before on podcasts. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to everybody in the audience. Make sure you go to danielstanton.com to check him out. And also make sure you search for him on LinkedIn Learning as well. As always, I hope you guys all have an amazing week ahead. And Audrey will be back with